What up guys, it's Dragon Ball for Life here today and I'm back with another video. Now today's video I'm going to be talking about which character in the Dragon Ball franchise has the most potential out of everybody. And not just only that, I also want to talk about, all the different types of characters that have high potential and to what degree that I've seen from Dragon Ball and I've been able to analyze. But I also want to talk about the idea and the writing story narrative of, characters with high potentials and writing that as a way for, to make characters stronger throughout the story and make their character progress through the power system. So there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about this, and the reason why I want to talk about it is because this is kind of a topic that's been talked about quite a bit now more recently from Dragon Ball, because this was always a thing. If you go back to Dragon Ball Z, we have Gohan showcasing he had high level of potential to get stronger due to the fact that he was, a hybrid Saiyan. Then we got later on with like Trunks and Goten. They also had a high amount of potential, though I do think they've been kind of wasted as of recently. And even Gohan to a certain extent, but he's definitely had more times to show his insane potential and growth of power compared to those two. They pretty much only had one time where they showed, and after that they've been kind of ignored. But recently they've been brought up more, so hopefully they go more in depth into Goten and Trunks and level them up a little bit more. But yeah, Dragon Ball Z, they did have characters with higher potentials, mainly Gohan, but it wasn't that much. When we get into modern day Dragon Ball is what I like to call it. Even before Dragon Ball Super, we got like Frieza when he came back, and he was able to go from being weaker than Super Saiyan 1 Goku all the way back in the Frieza saga to surpassing Super Saiyan Blue Goku, who has been newly introduced post Battle of Gods, which was a significant jump in power. And a lot of people didn't have a problem with it. Other people did. I personally did not like it, and I will be talking about why I didn't like it, because I'm going to go in depth a little more on my feelings on writing characters with high potential and the best way to do it, and my problems with the way it was handled throughout Dragon Ball. But then after that we had Dragon Ball Super come out, and then we had countless other characters who have been stated to have high amounts of potential. We had Future Trunks coming back with it, Android 17, Kale, Caulifla, we've had Broly, Gohan came back again with his beast form, and even Piccolo. So we've been getting quite a bit of characters who've had high potential, and that's why they're able to gain so much power quickly. But who has the most? Now, usually people, when they talk about who has the most potential, like in polls, because this was one of actually the main reasons why I wanted to make this video. I was on YouTube and I saw this Dragon Ball poll saying who has the highest potential, Broly, Frieza, Gohan, or Vegito. And I don't know why they threw Vegito in there, but they had those three, and those three are usually the main ones talked about when it comes to their high levels of potential. But there are more characters than just those three. I think those three are just the mainly had the biggest, grow in power. So they would definitely be the top three. But out of those three, who has more potential than the rest? And I think this is quite an interesting topic to go in depth, because I do see people talking about this, but there's just some stuff that I feel like they're missing that I personally would have added more onto. And that's why I'm making this video too. Not just say who has more potential than the other, but explain to what level and what degree these characters have it, and to how I feel about it, and how it's been written in the Dragon Ball story, especially due to recent times, and how it's become far more prevalent than it was all the way back in the Z time. So out of these guys, who has the most potential? Some people might say Gohan or Broly and stuff, and I get that, because their jumps in power were pretty ridiculous if you look at it. Let's go for Gohan. He's shown multiple. I think out of any character, he's shown the most growth with his potential, but that's also due to the fact that, he's been the first early one that was talked about it. Some people might say, well, maybe it was Goku, because all the way back in Dragon Ball, he was able to, get a hang of stuff that was quite advanced. Like, he was able to learn the Kamehameha within the first time seeing it from Master Roshi, who took 50 years to develop it. This kid took it, watched it once and was able to do it. Obviously, incomplete version of it, but he was still able to emulate it. And then later on, we see Goku being better with this. But this is just kind of a technique by the Saiyans called mimicry, where they basically can mimic different techniques. Some ones they can't of its a natural ability of a specific race, but if it's like a technique that somebody's using, they can do it. Though I do think that Dragon Ball hasn't they should do it more often because I think that's a pretty cool power to have. But if I'm being honest, Goku was not really showcasing insane potential, more like him developing the natural power he had. Whereas Gohan, he had this hidden power that was unbelievable. So we had from him as a kid where his power level was 1, which was literally abysmal, and then we have Raditz attacking Goku and Piccolo, and he put Goku in a bad situation where he's getting hurt, and Gohan let his rage rise up so high it went up to 700. His power level went up to 700 or over that, and he was able to actually damage Raditz, who casually was able to beat up both Goku and Piccolo by himself, and Gohan was only 4. So they showed how insanely powerful he can get just by getting angry. Then we saw this more throughout, the Frieza saga where he was fighting off second form Frieza, though he was kind of messing with him in that point. But we see Gohan getting stronger and stronger, and I think the two instances where he had the biggest jump in power was obviously in the Cell Saga and the Buu Saga. Cell Saga, he obtained Super Saiyan 2, but he did do quite a bit of work. He was training with Goku in the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, which they were there for roughly a year, and Goku was already a Super Saiyan, and he was kind of going quite a bit hard on him to draw that power out, and he obtained Super Saiyan 2, and it did require a little bit more work after a while. While he did have the potential to draw it out, it was just that he needed something to spark the fire, which Goku was able to set up by him fighting against Cell. Then we get into the Buu Saga, and this is where he jumps in power astronomically because for whatever reason, they wanted to depower him, so they made him not train, and he got weaker. He still has Mystic Form, but he had only half of the... not Mystic Form, Super Saiyan 2, but he only had half the power he had once before, and he was significantly weaker than he was as a child. But in that arc, he jumps up in power ridiculously because he went to, Super Saiyan 2 Gohan level to, beyond Super Saiyan 3 Goku level by just having his potential unlocked. But it was different than, those other instances. Those other instances, he just got mad and was drawing it out. Whereas in this one, the Elder Kai basically drew it out himself by doing this ritual where he can draw out all your latent potential, that's why he got so much more powerful. And at that time, I think Gohan would have been classified as the most strongest character that was not fused because there was different other powerful characters. Obviously, Vegito was the most powerful character by the end of Z, but he was a fusion, and even Buu-Tanks and Buhan were a fusion and mix of those guys' powers. Whereas in Super Buu, he was quite powerful, but he wasn't as powerful as that. So it's kind of weird with the power system. It's like Vegito, then Buhan, and Gohan the third, but Gohan, of its just not fused characters, Gohan would be definitively the most powerful character. But he had a reason then, and then he hasn't pretty much done anything. He's been kind of steadily declining or just going back up to where he once was until the new movie where we had Dragon Ball Super Hero, where he still had his mystic form, but he was a lot weaker, and then do the Red Ribbon Army taking Pan, and Cell Max beating the crap out of Piccolo. He basically was able to unlock his beast form, which people are saying is possibly stronger than Goku even now, which is an insane jump in power. So that's definitely a big jump. Then we have like Broly, which we only really seen his jumps in power from the Dragon Ball Super Broly film. In that film, in the beginning, he already had a high level of power. It wasn't anything too crazy, but it was still decently high. And he stayed on planet Vampa for pretty much 40 years, since he was like 40 years older. So he was there for 40 years on planet Vampa, and that's where he got a lot of his natural strength from. And people say, well, it makes sense, he was on a hostile environment, which I disagree with that one, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But he was able to, go from there and come to fight, Vegeta, and Vegeta was able to beat him in base. But remember, base Vegeta at this point would be countlessly times stronger than Super Saiyan God from, Battle of Gods, because Goku, throughout Battle of Gods, when he obtained Super Saiyan God, he became a universal level threat, and then when the power went away, it kind of got mixed into his Super Saiyan form, so his Super Saiyan form was a universal level threat, and then even in that battle, as Beerus was throwing the sphere of destruction, Goku's power jumped up once again and went from Super Saiyan God being embedded into his Super Saiyan form and went to his base form, meaning the base Goku was Super Saiyan God level. And then we get to obviously, the resurrection of F arc, which came from the movie, obviously. Then we go from, Universe 6 versus 7 tournament arc. We also had what's the thing called, the Goku Black arc, and then the Tournament of Power. And Broly movie was post Tournament of Power. So Goku and Vegeta's power jumped up astronomically, and they're pretty roughly the same in terms of power. So base Vegeta should be countless times more powerful than Super Saiyan God Goku all the way back in Battle of Gods, and that was already a universal threat. So that's insane. Even if Broly is getting beat up by him, it's like, well, he's insanely powerful. But also Broly, even though he was weaker than him, I wouldn't say he was significantly, because he was able to surpass the power of his base and Super Saiyan and even his God form pretty quickly. But yeah, I would say he was close to base, Vegeta, which is countless times more powerful than Super Saiyan God Goku from, Battle of Gods, which would put him at around, universal or beyond universal levels and ranges of power. So even if he was on Planet Vampa for 40 years, it is kind of ridiculous that he was able to get that insane of a power boost, because let's be honest, the creatures he was fighting were just, it was giant spiders and giant wolf dog thingies that he could kill, even as a kid. So it's ridiculous to say that he would get that big of a power jump, but it's the argument of him having high potential. So he was able to, be that powerful from just fighting, bug creatures on a planet. Let's be honest, if Goku and Vegeta were in that same situation, they wouldn't been anywhere near as powerful as they are. It isn't really the environment that made him so powerful. It's just that he has this potential that it can, surpass it. Because if it was other characters, even characters as powerful as Goku and Vegeta, they wouldn't get a significant amount of power boost. Not even Gohan would have got that much more powerful, and he has, quite a bit of high potential. And then as the fight progressed, he was getting stronger and stronger. He surpassed, base Vegeta, then Super Saiyan Vegeta, then Super Saiyan God Vegeta. Then he was able to handle Super Saiyan Blue Goku and Vegeta. Then they had a fuse to Super Vegeta, or Gogeta, and he was still beating, too powerful, and then he had to go to Super Saiyan Blue. And though Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta was definitely beating him, he wasn't, he could still tank quite a bit of damage. He even took a Stardust Breaker, which was one of his most powerful special moves, especially all the way back in I forgot what it was called, the other movie, but he gained insane amount of powers to the point where these characters who, in base were well above Super Saiyan God Goku level, meaning that in base they're well above universal level, and they had all these other power-ups and got even stronger, and he still was able to surpass it to the point where they had a fuse. So his power jump was insane, definitely. So he has a high power jump too. And then we have Frieza, where he basically, Resurrection of F was where it started, and I think he was the first person to have the biggest jump in power, because we had Gohan, but let's be honest, comparing Gohan's jump in power from, what we saw in the Cell Saga and even in the Buu Saga is nowhere near as insane as Frieza's jump in power and Resurrection of F. And at least Gohan in the Buu Saga, where he had the biggest, was due to the fact that his energy was drawn, or latent potential was drawn out through a ritual from a godly being. Whereas Frieza, he got his insane power from just training 4 months. And in the movie, they never explained what he did, but in the anime, they explained it as he was basically using his subordinate as a punching bag and was able to get that insane jump in power. And we even had his own henchmen getting incredible jumps in power, which they handled it differently. In the movie, they had this red guy, I forgot what his name is. He was, I think, as strong as one of either Zarbon or Dodoria, which they are not that powerful, but he was able to get strong enough to throw the hands with Piccolo, who at this point should be as strong as semi-perfect Cell to, regular perfect Cell, and he was bodying him, and Gohan had to step in to stop him. So even his henchmen got a crazy jump in power, and in the anime, they did even crazier with Tagoma being, surpassing all of them. He surpassed Gohan and, Piccolo and all them. He was definitely, beyond super perfect Cell's level of power. So this character went from being as strong as, I think they said, Captain Ginyu to super perfect Cell, which is insane if you look at it. So even his henchmen had crazy jump power, but Frieza just had the most. Because let's be honest, going from, being weaker than Super Saiyan 1 Goku all the way back in Frieza Saga, which he was a weaker version of Super Saiyan Goku, to being, past Super Saiyan Blue, which was newly introduced, is insane. Basically, Frieza went from, small star level to, sometimes people say, medium-sized star level, all the way to literally, multi-universal level or universal level plus. He went to that. That's an insane jump. Going from small star to beyond universe, that is beyond billions to trillions of times more powerful, or even quadrillions of times more powerful to get to that level. It just is unfathomably crazy for him to jump in power. And then we had Frieza jumping a little bit more in power with him training mentally in hell. But the biggest one we see now is him coming back, bodying true Ultra Instinct Goku and Ultra Ego Vegeta, one-shotting them, and he had this new black form and stuff, so he is shown to jump insanely in power, but this time it was 10 years of training in another dimension, which probably gave him an additional benefit. Now, if I'm being honest, I think out of all these guys, I would definitely put Frieza at the highest potential. Their potentials, the way that works is a little bit different. Broly's, his potential increases while he fights, so he can astronomically, close the gap in a fight. Gohan, he can do it when he gets angry, and it depends. Whenever he gets angry, it can fluctuate. Frieza really gets stronger by training, so theirs is differently. Broly, as a fight progresses, he gets stronger. Gohan, he can get it to whatever range when he gets angry, and Frieza can get it through just training. Prior to that, he can get a jump. I would say Frieza has the most potential, because if you look at all of them and we look at the jump in power, he definitely has the most jump in power. I mean, let's be honest, because if we compare even Broly's, he was only a bit weaker than base Vegeta, and he did be able to beat Super Saiyan Blue, two of them, and make the fuse into a Super Saiyan Vegeta. We don't know if that's stronger than them individually by that much, but look at Frieza. How do you tell me that he was getting still bodied by Super Saiyan Goku in that saga to how many times he got stronger? Even in base, Goku should be millions to billions of times stronger than Super Saiyan Goku. Base Goku would be, universal level of power in there. And that Goku was star level, medium star to maybe large star level, all the way to that. That's insane. And that was only with 4 months of training by beating his subordinate as a goddamn punching bag. So, for me, I would say definitely Frieza. Those others got some decently big arguments, like Gohan. He went from, Buu Saga level with Mystic form to all the way to, arguably Goku at this point, or, Tournament of Power. But I still don't think that's a jump equivalent to Frieza's level of jump in power, especially with his black form. We don't even know how powerful his black form is. Definitely he's more powerful than Gohan, because if Gohan got more powerful than him, then it wouldn't really be a big of a threat. It's like, well, Gohan can handle him at this point. But I will say they all have astronomical jumps in power. But I think there's more than just these guys. There's countless other characters, like I said. Even Frieza's henchmen had ridiculous jump in power, going from, strongest Frieza's right hand man and Captain Ginyu to beyond super perfect cells level. That's insane to think of, in jump in power. Then we have people like Hit, who is also able to get stronger by just doing a stance and increasing his power throughout that. But it wasn't so unbelievable to a crazy extent. And then we have other characters, let's go into the other characters. We have Trunks. Trunks at that point was, he had Super Saiyan 2. He couldn't even handle Super Saiyan 3 Goku holding back. But he was able to, go from that to being able to handle Zamasu and Goku Black and Super Saiyan Rose by just one transformation and getting angry. We had 17 being able to go from, being weaker than Super Vegeta to being able to push Goku to force him to go Super Saiyan Blue, which he said he had to. And even though Goku was holding back, so is he. So he significantly jumped in power. Also, Caulifla, Caulifla, she got Super Saiyan 2 pretty quick, like in a couple of minutes. And she was quite powerful, but Kale obviously had the biggest jump. Her Berserk form was able to, she was able to walk to Super Saiyan Blue Goku's Kamehameha. Some people might argue, well, he was holding back, but I already made a whole video on that. You guys can go check it out if you want to see it. Or maybe I can redo it again since it was a while back and my video styles have gotten better. But she was able to do that, and even if we were to ignore that, she was able to tank Super Saiyan God Goku's attacks and actually give some pushback and put him in a dangerous situation. So she also had ridiculous jump in power. I already mentioned Broly. I'm trying to think about any other character that had ridiculous jump in power. I guess you could say Granola, but his one was more through a wish. It wasn't him just having natural potential doing it. He had to go through a wish, and same thing with Gas. He had to go through a ridiculous wish to get that jump in power. But yeah, there's quite a bit of characters. I think it's been used quite a bit. So we have all these characters. So I'll definitely say it's Frieza, because comparing his jump in power from from the Frieza saga all the way to Resurrection of F, with just the 4 months of training by beating a subordinate, that is way bigger of a jump in power than any of those other characters. And then from how much stronger they got from Resurrection of F to this arc where he got the Black Frieza power, which we don't even know how powerful he is now. His jump in power is too astronomical. So if I was asked whose potential would I want to have, I would definitely pick Frieza. Gohan and Broly's is decently good choices, but I think he has just a bigger jump in power. Now, personally, what do I think about the potential thing? There's two mindsets I have on this. One is how potential has been written in stories, but also how it's written in Dragon Ball. Now, throughout natural stories, having the characters have different levels of potential to have them gain more power quicker than other characters, I don't think is a bad thing, because it is realistic in real life. There's certain people with different levels of potential. You can have somebody who trained in boxing for 10 years and somebody who just comes in as a rookie and be able to surpass that person's how did they do it? Some people are just mentally more naturally in tune when it comes to fighting, and physically, they have physical more advantages to give them that higher level of potential. But even with that being said, there's still supposed to be a reasonable level of jump in power. Just because you have so much potential doesn't mean your potential should put you above other people so much far more. But then again, you can argue, well, these guys are super powered characters, so the scaling for it will be a lot higher. But still, I still think there should be a certain level, suspense to disbelief when it comes to jumps in power. Just because they're have high potential, I don't think that should be that crazy. So can it be written well? Yes, but it depends on the writing. Because here's the thing. I think it's fine to write characters that have higher potential, being able to achieve higher powers quicker. But I do think you need to take into consideration in mind that there still should be a suspense of disbelief, which basically means, there's such a certain level of absurdity somebody can once take in a story to the point where there's a limit, and if you pass that limit, then nobody's going to take it seriously. Like, let's say in a story where you have, a human character being able to survive things that they shouldn't. Now, certain levels we're like, well, this is fiction. We're just going to say, hey, yes, a regular human would be dead by this, but we're just going to give them that, some leeway. But there's still a certain level, because if you're having a human character surviving, like getting shot with a bazooka and all this other stuff, it's like, no, I'm not accepting that now. And when you get to that, I think that's bad. So the potential writing, it is fine if it's done, reasonably, if it's done, consistently, and is done, to an extent where it's not overdone and feel like the writer's just relying on it. Because I think that's the biggest problem. When writers write, this character has that much potential, it feels like it's a lazy cop-out to have the writer just give this character insane jump in power and not have them train. Because if you're going to have a character get stronger, you have to have a realistic and reasonable reason why they're jumping so much in power. Because that's the biggest gripe a lot of people have with shonen manga, is the progression in power is too ridiculously over the top. It has to correlate very well with the level of training, what they learned, the amount of time that they put into it, the severity of it. If a character is able to surpass another character in power with less training, less struggle, and less amount of time, you have to explain why. And then usually, they have a higher level of potential. But even then, that is seen as too high of a crutch, if it's too ridiculous. So how does that pertain to, Dragon Ball's writing when it comes to potential? Personally, I think Dragon Ball, mainly Toriyama and AKA usually Toei Animation, since they're taking the helm of the writing narrative, at least in the manga. I mean anime. The manga is Toyotaro, but this still definitely stems from Toriyama, and even projects like Resurrection of F that was completely handled by Toriyama. He himself, has shown to write these characters with potential to be insanely powerful. Personally, I'm gonna drop any pretexts on what I feel about it. I'm just tell you straight up, I do not like it. I think it's stupid. I think it's lazy. I think it's a cop out. In most normal stories, I'm okay with it if it's for some certain characters limited and reasonable, and you still have to have some level of logical reasoning behind it or limit to it. Because if it's just like, well, this character has potential, so that means they can get as strong as they want, then I'm gonna be like, that's bullshit and that's shit writing. Because a good writer can write potential into the story but doesn't use that as a crutch. That is where the problem lies. Don't use it as a crutch to say, hey, this character obtained this insane amount of power while the other one, how to do more, simply because they have high potential. That's lazy shit writing, and anybody who has any form of, respect or when it comes to writing will be honest and say this is bad. Usually people who defend these over the top jumps in power just because they say they have high potential are usually fanboys and dick writers. And let's be honest, that's not a good thing to be in anything. It's okay to love something. It's okay to defend it when you feel like it's unjustifiably being attacked by others because it's popular or people just don't understand it. But I feel like a lot of times when it comes to writing in these stories, is they love an IP so much to the point that they will accept any bullshit that comes out of it and will defend it and act like anybody who calls it out is just a hater. And people think of me as a hater. A lot of other people get called haters because they call out the writing and say, hey, this is stupid. It makes no sense. And like, you're just a hater. It's like, no, I'm a fan. I'm just not a dick writer. I can see when writing is dumb or nonsensical and I can call it out reasonably without just being a hater. That's how I kind of feel about, when it comes to the potential thing. I think it could work, but I don't think you should make every character, have high potential. So these are a couple of my main problems with it. One, I feel like Toriyama is definitely using this as a crutch to be like, hey, instead of me writing why this character is able to surpass them, because let's be honest, if we're going to surpass Goku and Vegeta, characters that have been well established, that have gone through many transformations, trained a ton, got a ton of Zenkai boosts, fought a ton of big threats, it makes sense why they're so powerful as they are. But to write in a new character, you kind of have to, write some BS reasoning, and you can still handle it very well, but Toriyama does it in the worst way possible. The way he does it is just, oh, this character has high potential, so that means they can get as strong as much as they want and as possible, without even having to put even remotely 10% of the amount of work that Goku and Vegeta did. And that's where I think it's lazy. So it's definitely two things. One, how many times he does it. Two, how well does he do it? And if I'm being honest, he fails in both categories. One, he does it too much. There's too many characters now that have high potential. This character has high potential. That character has high potential. He's like fucking Oprah when it comes to this. You get high potential. You get high potential. You get high potential. And it's like, well, then it's one thing if a couple of characters had it, but if it's everybody, then it's like, well, is there anything else you do? Is there any other form of writing? Can you not have these characters be able to handle or match up to Goku and Vegeta without just giving them that? Because for me, it seems like a cheap shot, or kind of slap in the face of Goku and Vegeta saying, hey, you guys are so ass that you have to bust your ass off to be this powerful. Whereas these characters, they don't have to do barely jack shit and get that power. And I think that's lazy, and this does go against one of the biggest story writing narratives that was prevalent throughout Z, that was, if you watch a video essays of Dragon Ball, this is a main concept that was talked about throughout Dragon Ball a lot, which I think has lost its way and its meaning behind it because Toriyama is lazy and he just wants to write easy writing, which it's fine to a certain extent, but when you do it so much, it seems like you don't know what you're doing. It's like, what the hell's the point of writing if you're just going to use these crutches to help you out? It clearly showcases a lack of good writing from an artist or a writer himself. So my biggest problems is literally with this potential thing is, one, it it is something that should be done. It takes somebody that is a really good writer and a craftsman to make it work, that makes sense, where it doesn't seem like it's just, being used to make the story easier as a plot device or an excuse to give characters a ridiculous jump in power. And I feel like Toriyama, he's done it in the worst way possible. So personally, I don't have a problem with writing characters who have high potential, but I do think that you need two criteria to meet, which I've explained that Toriyama hasn't. One is, the amount of characters. You can't have too many characters. Have the reason is that, because then it's like, okay, you're clearly using this as a crutch and as an excuse to give these certain characters jumps in power, whether it's the allies or the villains, saying, well, this enemy is a big threat because they have high potential. This character is able to, now match with the main guys, Goku and Vegeta, because they have high potential. And people are like, well, what do you want then? Do you want, the other side characters to just be weak and the main villains to not be a big threat? And that's such a dumb argument in my case, because it's like, well, that's basically saying that if we don't make some BS writing, then there's no way this can happen. Or you could write it consistently and logically and reasonably, and how a well writer would do it, and build this up instead of just giving it to them right away. And I'll get into each individual character and why I feel like they're all shitty, badly written when it comes to their jump in potential and power. But one, it's overdone. Like, do you have to give every character? I've literally listed like a handful of characters that have it, that I feel like they shouldn't. Maybe 2-3 characters, it would be fine if they have their reasoning for why they're powerful is they have high potential. But to give it to everybody, especially characters that are not the main characters, is like, it's just a cheap writing, it's lazy. And then also to the extent, it's like, okay, I get it, they have high potential, but does that mean that they should be able to jump and surpass people in power just, to whatever extent? I feel like for some reason, I don't understand why Dragon Ball fans are so lenient on this. They're like, yeah, he has high potential, so that means a character can go from being complete trash to godly levels just in a short amount of time, just because they have high potential. I think that's stupid. They should still have some certain level of consistency, especially if it was previously written in the story, that the progression, how it went, and how badly it's been done. Now, some of you guys might be saying, well, you're just complaining, you're just saying, oh, it's bad. Well, I'll go throughout each of these characters and why they're badly done. So Gohan, you would think that I wouldn't have as much as a problem, since he has had the most showing and consistency and had a logical reasoning. He's a half Saiyan, he's a hybrid Saiyan. He's got his genes from the strongest Saiyan out there, Goku. And a half human, half Saiyan hybrids, the reason they have such a high potential is due to the Saiyans, they have a high level of power and they're able to, adapt very well. But the biggest problem is they draw their power from emotions, whereas Saiyans are not that very emotional. They're more stoic, warrior type characters that don't have that much emotion. Goku has shown the most amount of emotion, and still he's either happy and carefree or fighting oriented. And Vegeta, he's mostly serious and aggressive or fighting oriented. Whereas Gohan and the rest of the half Saiyans have more emotion. They feel more sadness, more empathy, and that can lead into great anger. Whereas Goku and Vegeta, they do have that, but it's still very limited because they're a lot more emotionless than somebody like Vegeta or like Gohan or Goten and Trunks. So they had that reasoning, which is reasonable. We saw it through Gohan's progression in power as a kid, him jumping to be able to hurt Raditz, who was able to hurt both Goku and Piccolo casually. And then we see it, throughout the Frieza saga and stuff like that. So is it well written? Yes. But I say that only in Z, because in Super, what they did is, let's be honest, the consistency of how he was written to get more powerful throughout his potential was more reasonable than what we got now. Because in Z, it's not like he jumped so much above them. Yes, did he get stronger than Goku and Piccolo, who had trained for years, but Raditz was still stronger than him. He was able to get a lucky shot, but Raditz was stronger than him. Frieza Saga, he showed this, but Frieza was still above him, and these other characters were able to get above him too. Goku was able to get it to his Zenkai boost too, so it was reasonable. In the Frieza Saga, in the Cell Saga, where he got like the most, most prevalent, character focus on it, he still had to work for it. Goku had to take him to the Hyperbolic Time Chamber, train him for a year, beat his ass as a Super Saiyan just to be able to draw it out of him. And Super Saiyan 2 is stronger, but it's not so unbelievably stronger because Goku and Vegeta were able to also obtain this, and future Trunks, because it was just like he had more of power there. So I was fine with that. Even in the Buu saga, with him being able to go to from Super Saiyan 2 level to past Super Saiyan 3 level, at least it was reasonably written, because you had a ritual that drew out his entire potential, which I was fine with. But then we go to Super, and it's ridiculous. The Dragon Ball Super superhero film, he had his mystic form, but he was a little bit weaker than he was quite a bit actually weaker than he was before. So you're telling me he's a bit weaker than he was in the Buu saga, to jumping and getting Beast Gohan. We don't know where he pretty much lies in power because of how it was written, so it can get a little confusing, I get that. But you're telling me that this guy went to Buu saga levels of power to post tournament of power levels of power, and not just post tournament, but top tier characters like Master Ultra Instinct Goku and Blue Evolved Vegeta. He got past those levels by getting into one fight, one transformation, and just getting angry. I'm sorry, but when you go through the consistency of Gohan's jumps in power, yes, does he have a jump in power? But to what extent? And in the Cell Saga, it was a decent jump in power. But let's be honest, it's not like he was, leagues above Goku and Vegeta. It was just he was decently stronger than them. If they got, proper training and took a little more time, it would just take a little more time, a little more training for them to obtain it. Whereas Gohan could get a little bit easier. But it's still reasonable. Buu saga, he had to get a ritual to draw it all out, and it was his full potential. So once again, reasonable. But this, explain to me, why would he go from Buu saga level characters, which would be far surpassed at this point, to the top tier characters level of power in the tournament of power, or even currently now? Why? Let's be honest. Out of all them, if we look at it, the jump in power compared to those two is way beyond. It's infinitely beyond that. So I feel like this is lazy. I feel like this is just Toriyama being like, hey, let's make Gohan, useful again. But instead of writing him consistently training throughout it to get powerful, we just give him a random jump because of this film. And I think that's lazy for him and Piccolo, due to the fact, because it's like, well, instead of just writing them continuously training and gaining more power, you just have their power be stagnant forever until this one movie. Now they just jump astronomically. And I explained in my review on Dragon Ball Super superhero, I don't have a problem with Gohan and Piccolo getting stronger. I think it's a good thing. The only problem I have is with how it was written. If I would have written it, written the story, what I would have done is had Gohan and Piccolo still constantly training, just be below them, but constantly training, and have Piccolo found out about how to obtain a godly form for Namekians in the Namekian book of lore, because they had the story on how to obtain Super Saiyan God. So if they have a godly transformation for the Saiyans, shouldn't they have it also for the Namekians? So I think that would have been a good way. And for Gohan, I think they could have just done it where Whis explained that God Ki is basically just regular ki that's condensed inside their body, hidden. So he could have obtained, they could have just had a story where he obtained Super Saiyan God by training with Whis, just like how Vegeta did. It embedded into his base, giving him that insane level of jump in power, and then him be able to mix his mystic form with the Super Saiyan God power, so Super Saiyan God energy with his mystic energy, creating Beast Gohan. That would have been perfect. They had perfect ways, but they did the shittiest way. They had Piccolo wish on Shenron to obtain a little bit more power, which it wasn't a little bit more. He got insanely more stronger, and then just getting angry and a desperate time to get even more power. And the Gohan just seeing Piccolo getting beaten up and jumping more power. I was like, okay, so he jumped up this much in power from seeing Piccolo getting beaten up, but where was that jump in power in the Tournament of Power? Why didn't he have that? Why didn't he have that crazy jump in power? I mean, literally, his universe was in danger from being erased. If there's any time to get really pissed, it should be when your universe is in danger and they need you very badly. But now Piccolo is beaten up. It's like, you've seen these threats happen multiple times. So that was my problem with those two characters. I felt like there was perfect ways to do it, but they just did it lazy. Having Gohan, barely being mystic level, and jumping from that to this level just because he got angry is stupid. Because even before, when he got angry, consistently, he never got this much power. I just feel like it's just It's just ridiculous. And Piccolo too when it comes to that. And they think sad thing is they could have been written pretty well. And I didn't even need to think about this very deeply or for long, and I was able to write it. So it just showcases Toriyama's lack of writing skill when it comes to it. And then we go to people like Broly. I did not like what they did in the Broly film because this character, even if he did have naturally high power, stop with this excuse. Let's just be reasonable. Just because somebody has high potential does not mean that they should just jump an insane amount of power just because they have high potential. You should still write consistently and logically. And it doesn't make sense because Gohan was, a half Saiyan, so they explained why he was so powerful. Why is Broly so powerful? Oh, because you can't say he's the legendary Super Saiyan in this one. They didn't, mention that. But even if he is the legendary Saiyan, you're telling me the legendary Saiyan can surpass the godly Saiyans because both Goku and Vegeta, they had to go through Goku had to go through a godly ritual. Vegeta had to be trained by an angel that trained gods. And he had the godly power. But this guy was just a Super Saiyan and he had the legendary status. I think that was dumb and lazy. I don't think it makes sense to have a full-blooded Saiyan gaining this much amount of power. If you want to write a full-blooded Saiyan having high level of potential, okay, I'm fine with that. But still have it reasonable. Because he had a better jump in power than actual hybrid Saiyans, which is ridiculous. Like, hybrid Saiyans have been explained. Why did he get it? What is so special about him? And in my video, I also explained they could have just done something where, Yamoshi's, since, Dragon Ball, they have the thing with the reincarnation. They could have, and how we had Oob, who had Kid Buu reincarnated into him and he obtained his power. They could have just had Yamoshi, being reincarnated into Broly and Broly taking the original power of the Super Saiyan God naturally. It's just that he didn't know how to tap into it. That would have been perfectly fine. Once again, another great way to write it in. See, so I don't have a problem with these characters having insane amount of power or, high potential. I think there's just better writing. Just saying, oh, he's a legendary Super Saiyan, he has high potential, he was on a dangerous planet, he should get this much more power. No, that doesn't make any sense. Because by that logic, Goku and Vegeta would not get that much more powerful in his situation. And Vegeta, he trained in an even more dangerous situation. He literally trained with Cybermen. Each Cyberman is the strength and power level of Raditz, who at that point could tank moon destroying attacks. There's no way you can change my mind that these giant spider creatures and wolf creatures can tank moon level destroying attacks and also project that much amount of power too. Vegeta was able to fight multiple of them off as a child, go to different hostile planets, and still he didn't get that insane level of jump in power, but Broly does. And this does feed into my argument that I'm going to talk about lastly, hopefully I still remember it, about how this makes one of the primary, themes of Dragon Ball be kind of erased by Toriyama, and this is a problem for why it is. But there's nothing you can explain. Saying Planet Vampa is hostile. So what? So fucking what? Majority of these Saiyans go to hostile planets fighting against races that are going to obliterate them that should be a lot more powerful than just bug creatures. That is just bullshit excuse, let's be honest. And Vegeta trained against Cybermen, multiple of them, which are Raditz level that can take moon destroying attacks and fire moon destroying attacks. Why did he get so powerful? It's just stupid writing. And like I said, you could have done the reincarnation of him being Yamoshi and obtaining the Super Saiyan God power, just like how Oob obtained, Kid Buu's power. They could have simply just done that. So there's that problem with that. There's the problem there for me with Broly's jump in power. And then Frieza's, let's be honest, Frieza was so surpassed at this point. It doesn't matter if he never trained a day in his life, which I already disproved that was wrong because he stated to Goku, I haven't been this hurt since sparring with my parents, which in Japanese they use plural terms. Parent, I think he only has one parent, and that's King Cold. But King Cold was stronger than Frieza, in the second form alone. If he sparred with his dad, which is a high form of training, shouldn't he have jumped insanely in power? Why didn't he? But even if we want to ignore that, that's not still good enough reasoning. Saying, oh well, Frieza, he had a high natural power level as a child, so that means he can get as strong as he wants with the little amount of time he trained. Personally, I felt like that story of him going to another dimension and training for 10 years, and the newer one where he got his black form, I think that could have been used for Resurrection of F, and it would have been better. What I would have done with Frieza and his potential is say, yes, he has potential, but that doesn't mean he's going to go from below Super Saiyan level in Frieza Saga to that. Just think about it. The level of power that he would have to jump would be beyond the billions, maybe even trillions of times more powerful to get to that level. You can't tell me within 4 months of training and obtaining a new golden form just because he's never trained before would get him trillions of times more powerful. That's stupid. And if that was the case, he shouldn't be shitting himself about the Saiyans. He should have just trained for a bit and surpassed them easily. Or unless you're telling me he's that lazy. He's that lazy and stupid that he can't train for a couple months? Come on. Personally, I felt like the best way they could have done it was, try to write some creative way. But Toriyama took the easy way out and just said he has high potential, which is lazy. He could have simply had it where, Frieza went to another dimension where, time passes a lot faster there, a lot slower there than in the outside world, just like the hyperbolic time chamber. But also, this dimension has godly energy in it. So as he was training in this dimension, not only was he able to train for a lot longer time, while in the real world it was shorter, but he was also, as he was training, every time he takes damage, his body would absorb the godly energy, so he has godly energy poured into him too. They could have done that. Like I was saying, I'm not a genius writer, and even I can think of these stuff. It's like Toriyama didn't even take time to do it. He took the simplest, easiest way out, and that pisses me off. When I see that, I'm like, you're a fucking hack. That pisses me off. I'm sorry, I can't hide my anger towards that. So this high potential writing shit is stupid. So we had that. And then, Kel and Caulifla, they just got jumps in powers by just getting angry. I think that's stupid. Also the tingly back feeling. If it was, if they just wrote already, the Universe 6 Saiyans already had Super Saiyan, and only some of them had it, but it was, a top tier level of characters had it, then it would have been fine, because then you could have just had them be top tier characters that already had it and jump in power. Also, I still do think they shouldn't have made, especially Kale, as strong as she was. I don't think Kale should be doing any of the feats that she did. I mean, people can say, well, Goku's holding back. But even Vegeta acknowledged how powerful she was. She had to be ridiculously powerful if they acknowledged how powerful she was. I think they should have just toned down their power and not made them as strong as they were. And like I said, if you want to make them bigger threats, then make their race naturally have Super Saiyan already. So it's more reasonable why they're able to jump in power, or have it like where she's a mutant, like they're mutants of the Saiyan race, and that mutation helps out with it more. So, just have something. Don't, because all that he does is slap potential. They have potential. They have potential. They have potential. That's fucking lazy. Stop slapping that on as cure-all shit. That's lazy as fuck. Write more in depth. Don't just say, they have high potential, that's why they're so powerful. It makes you sound stupid when you do that shit. And then you had 17 getting from weaker than Super Vegeta levels of power to literally being able to force Goku to go to Super Saiyan Blue form and still hold back enough to do that. And people's arguments like, well, Frieza 4 months trained, and he was able to get to this level of power. This guy was even stronger than Frieza, and he was trained for 10 years doing fighting against poachers. Okay, the problem with that argument is going based off of Frieza. I already said Frieza's writing was stupid. So saying, well, he did this, so it makes sense him. So you're arguing, well, another character was stupidly written, and this character is at least more reasonable. Okay, so he's more reasonable than a completely dumb written character. And once again, you could have made him stronger, but there's different ways. And just think about it logically. You're telling me he trained, 10 years? He fought poachers. This guy fought poachers, humans with guns. You're telling me once in a while he fought off humans with guns, and that should give him a reason why he gets this much powerful? Come on. That's just stupid. He's fighting against regular humans with fucking guns. How is he this powerful? This is just dumb as shit. This is the dumbest thing. So yeah, I did not like that either. I think that was stupid that he was able to get that jump in power by fighting regular ass humans with guns. Since when was that considered high levels of training? Oh, he fought some guys off some regular ass humans that had guns. Okay, that doesn't mean shit. That's the dumbest argument to make. And to say, well, Frieza this, don't compare to Frieza. I think 17 should have been a lot weaker than he was, or at least had it where he continuously stayed with them and trained and got stronger. Also, it doesn't make logical sense in Dragon Ball either, because remember Resurrection F, Frieza blew up the planet, and everybody died. That it was including 17. 17 should have been able to survive it and take out, Frieza. And some of you might say, well, wouldn't he have suffocated? No. It was even stated by Toriyama that, once when they were done with Earth, they would have gone to other planets. They could, with their speed, they can fly to other planets, but also they don't need to breathe. They can literally live forever due to the, having the infinite energy source within them. So technically, he could survive in space, but he died from the explosion too. So and that was like what? That was like a couple, like a year, because from the time from the entirety of Resurrection of F. I mean, not Resurrection of F. Battle of Gods, or not Battle of Gods. Sorry, Dragon Ball Super is only condensed within a year. Within a year, or a little bit over a year. So you're telling me within that time, which would have been a year, within 1 year, he went from being killed by Frieza's planet-destroying attack, or Frieza's attack, to now being able to, box with Super Saiyan Blue Goku at this point? No. It's just dumb. Now, how you could have ridden, a 17 to be stronger, just kept him in with the regular Z fighters and had him train with them constantly. You could say, well, he has high potential, but he trained with these guys constantly and got stronger and stronger and stronger. Also, he got more modifications and upgrades from Bulma. So he's getting godly modifications, upgrades from Bulma and them, and training with them. But I also still would have put him in a little bit lower power, so it would have been more reasonable. And then we had Trunks saying, oh, Trunks had high potential. He's a hybrid Saiyan, so it makes sense that he got that insane jump in power with his Super Saiyan Rage. He was, at this point, Goku was holding back in Super Saiyan 2, beating him. And some people might say, well, this is base Goku. Base Goku alone should be Super Saiyan God levels. But remember, Goku can go even below that. He can go even insanely below that. And he was obviously holding back quite a bit, because when Goku Black came there, he only fought him in his Super Saiyan 2 form, and he was beating the shit out of him. So Goku obviously didn't need Super Saiyan 3 to take him out. He just did to show him, hey, look, there's a higher power, and this is what it can, taste of what it can do. So he could have easily beat him in Super Saiyan 2. He just was messing around with him. But yeah, for him to jump in that power just by getting enraged and having that Super Saiyan Rage, I do not like that either. Personally, what I would have done for Trunks' character is I would have had him more as a supporting role. I would have had him more as a supporting role, helping them out, instead of him being the main thing. Or just not write the story with him being from the future. Goku Black being from the future, so you don't have to use him. But let's say we want to use Trunks. Just getting him angry and obtaining, Super Saiyan Rage is dumb. And here's what I'll go through for that. The reason why I think this is dumb, people saying, oh, he's a hybrid Saiyan. Once again, there still should be a limit. Just because he has high potential or is a hybrid Saiyan doesn't mean he should just get these astronomical jumps in power. It should still have some level of, be reasonable to a certain extent still, right? And if you look at it logically, it doesn't make sense, because Gohan prior to that never had that high of a jump. Gohan has been stated to have the highest potential even out of the hybrid Saiyans, yet he didn't have that high of a jump in power even when he got angry. So why did Trunks get such a high one? Also, when you look back in the, what's the thing called? The Cell Saga, it doesn't really add up the fact, because let's be honest, Trunks showed some level of potential, but not to that high of a level of potential. I mean, when he first came in, he already had Super Saiyan, and then 3 years had passed, and by that he had Super Saiyan even before that. So he had Super Saiyan as a young teen. At least it depends on the manga or the anime, they changed up, but it's still roughly around the same time. So he had it for a teen. So he had it for multiple years, Super Saiyan, longer than Goku had it. He trained before there, and he even trained the hyperbolic time chamber. Yes, Vegeta didn't fully hands-on train with him, but even Vegeta got insane jump in power. And though he did get stronger than Vegeta, remember Vegeta didn't want to get the Ultra form because he saw the weaknesses in it. But even so, he stated he was a bit stronger than his dad. So if he had that great of potential, he should have gotten stronger. If he had that great of potential, he should have gotten stronger by, just training a bit. Because Gohan got quite a bit stronger. So, if we want to say, well, he can just get angry and get this much more powerful, then how come when he was being trained and fighting and still angry, he didn't get that big of a jump in power? Oh, it seems kind of like it's not consistent. Like the writers just wanted to say, hey, let's give him a reason to be able to handle this threat by just getting him angry and obtaining a new transformation. That is shit writing. I'm sorry, that is. If you look back in Z in the Cell Saga, he never had that insane jump in power. Why didn't he have it there? Oh, maybe it's because it was more reasonable and more logical there. Just being a hybrid Saiyan doesn't give you that jump in power. He never showed to have that much of potential, especially compared to even Gohan. But he shows this just by getting angry. And they even did it with Vegeta, saying, oh, Vegeta was able to surpass Super Saiyan 3 Goku in his second form and Super Saiyan 2 by getting angry. But it's like, wasn't he also, didn't he get insanely mad when, Cell took out Trunks? But he didn't get an insane jump in power. Why didn't he? Oh, it's kind of like the writing is inconsistent once again. So they're showing clear-cut indications of inconsistent ass writing, and that's definitely one of it. It's like it just, none of it adds up. So for Trunks, I feel like if you really wanted to make him stronger, you could have had him, you could have just had it where, like, hey, Trunks wants to put in more work, have him train with Whis and another dimension. They could have had Whis take him into another dimension, like how the hyperbolic time chamber was, and say, hey, I'm going to teach you and train you like how I trained your dad. You seem like you have a high potential as a hybrid Saiyan, though you are lacking a lot more in power. I can help you obtain it. So he, just trains him in that and obtains Super Saiyan God. They could have just had it where he obtains Super Saiyan God and he's a hybrid Saiyan. Super Saiyan God, the power is even more higher than a full-blooded Saiyan. Just had it that way. Like I said, I don't have a problem with these characters getting stronger. I just have the problem with to the what extent. Don't make it to such a ridiculous extent that it makes no sense. And if you are going to do that, then at least write it more creatively or more reasonably why that is. If not, if you're just going to do it lazily, then you can't make them that powerful. Or it's just going to break the realistic or immersion of the story, at least, from what it was written. But yeah, we had him. I already mentioned Kale and Kefla. I said Broly. Frieza, yeah, I think I said all of them at this point. But yeah, I just feel like all their potentials, it's one too many characters. You have Gohan, you have Trunks, well, at least future Trunks. You have Frieza, Broly, Kale, Caulifla. You have Android 17. You have I'm trying to think about the other ones. You have Togoma. You have like 8 different characters with this characteristic trait. It's like, you're going to give that many characters that ability? Come on. Just be a little more creative. And then the other problem was, not only did they give it to multiple people, but there's no limit to how much more ridiculously powerful they can get. Whereas Goku and Vegeta, they do get ridiculously powerful, but it's still logical. They trained quite a bit. They trained really hard. They had specific reasons why they did it, why they were able to get this powerful. These other characters don't. They just state that, they have high potential, so that means they can get as strong as they want. So that was also another problem that they had with this. So yeah, do I have a problem with writing characters with high potential? No. I think it is a lot more complex and harder to do if you're going to be a writer. It requires good writing. But Toriyama dropped the ball. He did it in the worst way. He gave it to too many people. He doesn't go in depth. He does it lazily. And I feel like instead of using it as kind of a reasonable plot device, he uses it as too much of a plot device and kind of a crutch so he can use why these characters get more powerful, and kind of as a Deus Ex Machina type of ordeal. So it isn't a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I just have a problem with how it has been done in Dragon Ball itself specifically. So let's just go through the rest of what I said throughout that. Who out of all these guys, because there's quite a bit, I think there's way more than people think that have high potential in the story, but who out of all of them, I would say Frieza, because both times that he jumped in power was insane, and the first time he did it with a short amount of time, it didn't even train that hard, and got the most amount of gain in power. Gohan, on the other hand, at least he had more consistent writing on his other parts. On when he had it, he had more reasonable writing, and his jump in power, besides the beat before the Beast thing, it wasn't that crazy. Only in the Beast one now it is, but even then, compared to Frieza, it's not as high. And Broly definitely has it, but at least Broly's progressing throughout as he fights. Which is still BS, but let's be honest, Broly's jump is still nowhere near Frieza's level. Frieza just keeps on getting this insane jump. So if I was to have anybody's high potential, it would definitely be Frieza. All you have to do is take training even a bit serious, and you can get insanely powerful. Can you imagine if he trained like Goku and Vegeta, and for the amount of time he did, he would be, he would be the strongest god of destruction in their universe unless they give him some limited cap of power, or something like that. So yeah, I'll go with that. My feelings towards, that, like I stated quite a bit. There's ways you can write it. It's just complex. Toriyama did horribly. I think there's better ways to do it, but I also still think there should be limits to how much more powerful characters can get, because then it just gets stupid and nonsensical. If you're a person who's outside the Dragon Ball fandom and likes Dragon Ball but isn't, ridiculously a big fan about it, it's gonna be kind of BS to you. So yeah, like, as an outsider's perspective, if you're somebody who's not a dick writer or who's like just a casual fan, they'll see this as bad writing, and this is bad in a bad example for how Dragon Ball is written. Because people that don't watch it that much, they look on the outside and they're like, wait, if they watch it the first time, like, what the fuck? How the hell does this character get so strong? But even as a Dragon Ball fan, I thought it was ridiculous. So I just don't know why people accept it. My big problem is the fact that people act like just because Toriyama puts the label of they have high potential, they barely train their life, that means they can get as strong as they want. It's like saying somebody that's on, Yamcha's level can beat Beerus by training for 10 days simply because they had high potential that they newly locked into. Like, this is just dumb. Let's just have still some limits, because if you don't, then you're basically saying that you're not holding Dragon Ball to any standard, that you're just accepting whatever, and then you can't really get mad at people saying that the writing is trash in Dragon Ball. If you accept that, you're accepting trash writing and saying it's fine, it's Dragon Ball. And then if somebody discredits Dragon Ball for having trash writing, and you're like, hey, they don't, well, you agreed with it because it's Dragon Ball, but now when it's getting attacked, now you want to say that. So it isn't for me to say, oh, they shouldn't do that at all, or they should bash on them. I'm just saying, please, let's just have only a few characters have it. 2, have it at least decently or well written on why. And 3, still have a limit to how much more powerful they can get. I do not like this topic or discussion about potential, because I feel like people that talk about it act like it's not a problem and ignore the fact that just makes the writing look terrible. Whether if you're a power skiller or not, even people that are not power skillers, this just is bad writing in general and showcases the lack of critical writing from Toriyama, and just welcomes any form of shit to your writing and stuff. So yeah, I know I rambled on quite a bit. It's just I feel very opinionated about this. I made a couple of videos about this. This was basically my channel stemmed out from my hatred from how it was written. And I feel like I want to throw an olive branch to those who really do like it and say, hey, it's not bad and stuff. I just want to say, hey, look, let's be honest. Even you can agree that there's better ways that they could have done it, and there should still be limits to how they've done it. And my way of writing would not be perfect, but is infinitely more than what Toriyama was putting in, and I feel like he didn't even try. If we truly love this, IP and franchise, we should want it to be done well. We shouldn't just say, hey, just drop out whatever. We should be like, hey, you can drop it out and we want that, but you still should be done very well, because we want this to be well written, and we don't want people outside of the Dragon Ball fandom to look at Dragon Ball as low level intelligent writing. It doesn't need to be highbrow fucking genius shit, but it shouldn't look like some idiot wrote it and it's written for idiots either. So yeah, I just want to hear you guys' comments. What do you guys think about this high potential writing? Who do you think has the most high potential? What do you think about me and my idea on this? Are you guys cool with it? And do you agree with me that, even if you do like Dragon Ball Super, do you agree that there's better ways that they could have done it, and they did take the more lazy option on how to handle the story writing? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.